I think we've got 16 or 17 members who are going to talk. The leader is one of them, and we'll let him talk when he gets here. Anytime a new airline executive comes to see me, I say there are two things that every member of Congress thinks they're an expert on. One is elections, and one is air travel. And so you're going to hear a lot this week from a lot of experts, particularly I think our friends on the other side are going to be talking about bills that I believe that they have generally not looked at, haven't read, have decided that somehow state legislatures are universally committed to voter suppression. Voter suppression, really, I've never seen that public voter suppression as a very good political tactic. And I would say, looking at these bills carefully, what I think you'll find, and I look forward to the exceptions you might come up with that I haven't come up with, is that state after state leaned forward, as you would hope they would in the pandemic, and added some additional voting things that they had never had before. And in virtually every case, and again, I haven't found an exception, there may be one, but it would be the exception that proves the rule. In virtually every case, when that election was over, they looked at what they had done and said, how much of that should we keep? And I think state after state have changed their laws in a way that it will be easier to vote going forward than it was to vote in 2018. My mother used to say, no good deed goes unpunished. And what we don't want to do here, though we may have already done it, is teach the lesson: if you try to adjust to a momentary challenge, when you try to dial that back, everybody will assume that you're trying to do bad things instead of trying to save the best of the things that you try to do. And whether that's voting by mail or drop boxes or days of early voting, I think you're going to find that the bills they're going to be talking about this week generally have more of all of those than states like New York and Delaware and Connecticut, and we look forward to talking about that. Also want to remember that the basic framework for the big election bills, whether it's the John Lewis Act or whatever the name is of the other bill that is hundreds of pages, the basis for that is H.R. 1, which in fact passed the year before the 2020 elections were over, and suddenly it's the 2020 elections why you have to change the election law for everything Democrats have always wanted to do in ways that they've always believed give them advantages in the whole election process. And so we're going to be talking about that this week on the floor. There'll be time for questions, and I'll be here for questions, and others will that choose to stay when members have had a chance to talk. But we're going to start with Mr. Brasso and then Mr. Langford, and there's a list right here that you all will follow.
Well, the Democrats